hold the presses, stop the phone, put down your baby, fight a bulldog. It's only bloody cooking with Renz! Today we're going to be making a chicken stuffed with feta cheese and wrapped in prosciutto, put in a baking tray and left to roast in there along with potatoes, onions, of course a little bit of bloody vino, and some tomatoes just to make everything work. Mwah! Just like a mama like. Take that, cultural heritage. There's one thing that a chef always has to do before he gets any kind of meal underway. It's a very important step. It's a thing that has been passed down through the ages. Crack a bloody brewski. Perfect. So, without further ado, let's get bloody cooking. So some of the herbs we're going to be using for this particular meal are basil and oregano. Not massively complicated. There's some basil, lovely stuff. Green. Oregano, or in some savage countries they might refer to it as oragano, but we're civilized here. First step, unfortunately, in pretty much every meal is a lot of chopping. I think I got it. So now we've got our potato chopped up, we're going to start boiling it because it's simply not going to get crispy enough in the oven on its own. So we're going to soften these bad boys up a little bit, get them in some water, fill that up nice and good. Good cooker. It's a very good cooker. And then we just ladle all of this bloody potato into the saucepan and try not to burn ourselves because this water is already pretty hot. And that almost... There's definitely a better way of doing this. I know there's a better way of doing this, but that's not the point. We're cooking rustic style, and you know what? My relatives up in the hills of Italy, back in the day, they didn't understand that boiling water hurt, so we'll go by their rules. I'm sure. Boiling water. I was just talking about how boiling water hurts. There's a practical demonstration for you kids. Oh, this is a situation that calls for some beer. Now that that's boiling nicely, what we're going to do is add a little bloody sprinkle of salt into there, because you know, almost nothing is better without salt. Boiling water with a lid on it, good for the environment, so you're welcome, Mother Nature. Next on the docket, the one that's going to make me cry, onion. I know that everyone's going to say that my chopping technique might not be necessarily up to scratch, up to standard, you know, not finesse, but to those people I tell you, rustic cooking doesn't require finesse. People who say even-sized chunks of onion cook better. But to what I say to you is I like a bit of variety, a bit of crunch in my zip. A little bit of zip in my crunch every now and then. Fine by me. It's a good chefing technique I was once taught by a very wise man. When you're scraping stuff along, use the back end of the knife. Save yourself a bit of sharpening. You're welcome. It says that you need to look where you're cutting, because it hurts to look where I'm cutting. Jesus Christ. Oh, look at that. Genuine tears. Oh. Right, be a man, be a man. So we continue. Right, so the next thing we need to do is get some stock ready, because I want this to be sitting there and sort of building up and marinating for a little while. So in order to make sure I do that, this is early. A chicken stock cube. We use chicken because we're cooking chicken. Slice it up a few times, because you never know. The increased surface area might increase the rate of dissolving, and that's what we want. Let's get our very trusty kettle, and we just fill that up. Get ourselves kind of 400 milliliters or so, just so we have a little bit of spare to play with. Give that a little stir, ideally not with a knife, that would be silly. Stirring away just to get it all soaked. Lovely, right, let that sit for a little bit. And the next important step is have another slug of beer. So the next step is probably the most important one of this especially delicious meal, and that is that we've got to stuff the bloody chick. I try my best to try and get the sort of like thickest chicken breast I can when I'm doing this. You want to try and get as much in the middle as you possibly can. What I've done again is I made both of my hands chickeny, so give me a second, I'm going to wash these puppies so I can hold the knife. Time to stuff that bloody chicken. First step I think I'm going to be doing is taking this knife and just kind of working with the gap that we've already been given within this chicken breast. So that is probably about right. We can kind of really wrap a bit of the feta around this bit of chicken, so that is lovely. It's very nice feta, but I always find it very difficult to actually use it in a way that doesn't involve a lot of mess. It's like a brick, but then as soon as you actually do anything with it, it just sort of crumbles to nothingness. But that is fine, because this particular chicken dish, it's going to be rolling in bloody feta, so we can give that a nice chunk in there. Probably a smidge too much. It's going to give a little sprinkle of basil. Teaspoons are like condoms for your herbs, so there's a little nice sprinkle there. Lovely jubbly. I'm going to quickly check the potatoes to make sure that they're not getting too soft, otherwise they'll lose all their structure. They've definitely softened up enough. They've been in there for sort of 5 to 10 minutes. We don't want them to get too soft, otherwise they're going to lose any of their sort of structure and integrity. We might have already left them too long, actually. We'll get these drained. So now we go back to our prosciutto. So I bought an extra amount because I've noticed in the past when I've tried to make this meal, I've tried to do it on one pack, but prosciutto, surprisingly enough, is not actually a great building material and doesn't tend to keep its structural integrity all that well. So we are going to be trying to salvage and patch it over, but it's definitely going to take a couple of slices at least per chicken breast. This bit's a little bit finicky. We put a strip or two along the bottom here, underneath it, like so. Then we can wrap those round and use them to combine, well, not combine, just to hold the chicken together. And that is actually starting to look slightly better than I expected it to, which is nice. So we're just making sure each time we make a little layer of them on the bottom, just to cover the bottom of the chicken. Squeeze that together, lie it along there horizontally, and then we can wrap like this. Wrap over. Just like that. Oh, that's a nice bit of chicken. And a little parcel that we just put over here. Right, so what we want to do is make sure that we lay these out in 3 nice strips, and preferably making them as wide as you can for each one, just to try and give you a nice foundation for wrapping the chicken up in it, because it's quite a pain to try and do this the other way around and place it on top and then bring it underneath. So if you do it like this, we create ourselves a nice base, and then we'll just place this bit of chicken on there like that. Make our incision in the middle just to open that up. Let's make this incision to open up the middle. Then we'll take our feta, crumble it up, place it inside, and then time for the trick, which is where we simply pinch this all together and wrap it in the prosciutto as we go, making sure to cover it. This one didn't go together quite as nicely as the other ones, but that's fine because we have excess prosciutto for exactly this kind of reasons. We'll just kind of patch it in, make sure we don't waste anything anyway, and then once that's been sealed in and placed with that weight on there, then it will be perfect. Right, so now we've got our chicken put in the baking tray, it's time to add the rest of it. And what we do like is to make sure that when you get the tomatoes there on the vine, it looks really nice. We'll just chuck these in there, making sure that we distribute them nice and evenly, make a nice hodgepodge of flavours. Next step is to get your onion, to give that a nice generous sprinkle all over this bad boy. And setting it up, just get nice and soft, that will be lovely. Next step is to get the potatoes, which we boiled earlier, and we'll now just place these in here as well, these nice little potato discs that we've made. Just place these around it, making sure that you get a nice even distribution. Try not to cover the chicken because you want that to be under most of the direct heat because you want it to crisp up, but you know, a little bit of obscuring is completely fine. Next step is we've got to add some liquids because otherwise, of course, it's just going to get really, really dry. So this is the stock that we've made up earlier. So let's give that a nice spilly, poury. After that, we want to be using some of our vino. Now, we've gone for a very expensive range of vino in this particular recipe because I wanted to spoil you boys and girls. So this is Zesty and Vibrant. It is created by, I'm going to guess, made by Asda. It is white wine, as is very kindly stated on the bottle. Yeah, good vintage. You know it's a good wine when you spend at least £4 on it. Right. Don't want to be too generous with this, to be fair, because you don't want to completely taste of that. It's quite easy to get a little bit carried away. Bloody glug. Oh, that is zesty and vibrant. Right, 1 second. Step 4 of this is definitely wash it down with beer. Ah, that's so good. It's gonna be even better when it's in here. Cheers, wine. Our hand-picked rosemary from earlier always goes down a treat. We might break this up into a couple of little sprigs just so it's not completely localized, but you again don't want it to be too intrusive. And then we will take some oregano. Thank you, America, for your kind import of that word. And we will just give this a little sprinkle over the whole doodad malarkey. Very nice. And then give this whole thing a nice seasoning with some salt and some pep, because everything tastes a lot freaking better with salt and pep. Right, this is starting to look like it's ready to go into the oven. Right, probably bottom shelf for this bad boy because we don't want to be burning nothing. We also really don't want to be touching anything with our forearms, but we successfully did that. Thank you, oven gloves. My hands are little skeletons. I'm going to chuck that bad boy in there. It's on gas mark 5 now. I think I'm going to put that up a little bit to gas mark 6. Now we can wait for half an hour or so. We'll keep on checking on it over the interval. And while we're doing that, why not just have another beer? Beer. What good to anybody is a sober chef? My answer? Bloody no good at all. Pathetic. Right. Let's see what we've got. So, just the perfect level of crispness that you want. So a little bit of black on top of these tomatoes, but everything else is looking crispy and delicious. Quite a special smell. Right, time to dish out this bad boy. So now we've managed to get it out of the oven. It's looking pretty good. It's pretty good, huh? It's nice and crispy. Tastes like wine. Alright, that's definitely a success. Time to plate up this beautiful dish. So, first off, let's grab of our chicken cutlets, making sure to not actually put the rosemary on the plate, because as much as it's a fantastic flavouring, you don't want to be accidentally catching a mouthful of that. Let's get a nice sprig of the tomato, some tatties, just to really centre this dish off. Just a little tiling of potatoes. And then let's grab a little bit of this onion just to make sure that we get a nice little crunching texture that comes with a dish like this. Especially because this onion hasn't been fried before and it's not been soft boiled for a long time, so it's going to be still delightfully crunchy. And the final touch is that we need to pour a little bit of the juices, the liquid that has come from this meal. It's mostly stock and wine with all the flavourings of the other stuff that's in there, but it really lubricates the meal up and it makes it absolutely delicious. So this is a nice little sputtering of that. And there we go. Perfection. Renz's own chicken stuffed with feta cheese, wrapped in prosciutto with tomatoes and sort of roasted potatoes, but not really. Look at that. Plate of food that will make your mum cry with joy for how good of a cook she raised you to be. Tomatoes ripe off the branch, potatoes crispier than a victim of Pompeii, and prosciutto so perfectly cinched into that chicken that you just want to cry touching it. Well done, Renz. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for some more. We're going to make some more bloody delicious food. We're going to have some more beer and a good time. So, see you all in the next one. And salut.